Contrary to what you might think, Nietzsche was not a nihilist. The problem with big thinkers, you see, one of which was Friedrich, is that they are misunderstood, and it takes a lot of time for their ideas to sink in the collective consciousness. I haven't read too many philosophy books, but I think he's one of the deepest and interesting philosophers, who also had a way with words, and who was a philologist too, and who knew how to write poetically, beautifully, concisely, and straight to the point at times. I mean, his quotes are killers. However, sometimes he is credited or discredited. It depends on which value you attach to it, to be a nihilist, which means that we miss completely the point of his philosophy. He was also named so during his life, and he objected to it, and rightfully so. The reason that he is so wrongfully labeled is that in some of his writings, unfortunately I won't be able to quote because I don't have this habit, and I remember mostly synthetically the information and the ideas, but the crux of the matter is that he considered his work revolutionary, and so he uses sometimes expressions like let's destroy everything, especially in the first pose Zarathustra, or let's wipe out, or things like that. That doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in anything, or that he thinks that the life is absurd, because he states directly that you should seek power, and that you should accomplish something in this life. He is the antithesis of Schopenhauer, who was influenced by Buddhist philosophy. The reason he also might be considered a nihilist is that in his youth he agreed with Schopenhauer, and so didn't believe in achieving anything. But that was just youth. I remember in one of his books, actually I haven't read any of them, I used to listen to them when I was a student, and I'll do so in French many times. I think I've listened to all of his books, and I remember in one of his books he said that sometimes we have an idea that seems a revelation, and then 10 years later, when we look back at it, we label it as youth. That was just youth. and then 10 years later we'll also think about this moment and call it youth, you know. Of course that doesn't happen to every person, but it's the case with a profound thinker like him. Perhaps he's the biggest, I don't know, but I love him. He has everything. He's not boring, he's interesting, he has metaphors. I mean, he can be appreciated as a writer as well, perhaps even a poet. And to come back to the matter at hand, he believed in all these things, and that you should realize your potential as a man, and that suffering makes you grow. Of course, I won't try to debate him here, there is no point. I understand his reasoning, and there are certain ideas that there is no point to argue about. You just understand that you cannot convince someone, and that neither you nor he are totally correct. So it doesn't matter if he was right or wrong or partially, but he had a system of beliefs, and he encouraged especially men to fulfill their purpose and to accept suffering as an inextricable part of life. Another idea that might make you believe that he was a nihilist was the fact that he was seemingly against morals. But if you read him carefully, you understand that he wasn't against the idea of morality in general, or against the politeness, but he was reminding us that these so-called rules can hinder us from understanding ourselves and the world, because they form fixed ideas. I remember reading somewhere that somebody imputed him this, and he said that the rule of politeness are necessary for survival, but we shouldn't put too much price on tradition and attachment. And he was right, I believe. And in this way you might think that he was a nihilist, because he despised tradition, especially, how should I put it, superstitious tradition, which can become surreptitious to your mode of thinking if you cling to it, because you cannot evolve if you hold too tightly to your past, and tradition is a part of it. So in this way he seemed like a nihilist, and that he denied everything, and in some instances he does, but it's more like an attitude to preach that encourages us to question everything, you know, and that's very courageous, that's very daring. So in this way you might label him as that, but he wasn't, at least not in this Eastern way, like Buddhist, that everything is absurd and there's no point in pursuing a goal and all that. I'm not saying that one school of thought is right and the other not, but that's what his ideas were about, you know. And it's a lot. I can talk longly about him, but I think I should preserve some ideas for some other times, for our time. And another thing to remember is that he stressed the fact that woman might need you to show you, might need you to show resolve and some aggressiveness in order to respect you. And he's famous for the quote that if you want to go to women, don't forget your whip, or something like that. I don't know how they translated it in English, but if you have been interested at some point in your life in his work, I'm sure you've heard of it. And that's true if you interpret it figuratively, because he was also a gifted poet, and so we shouldn't take his words at face value. And although he has had his blunders, and another idea that might influence us to believe that he was a nihilist was the fact that he said that God is dead. But if someone says that religion is an invention, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have a system of ideas or values, or that he thinks that nothing has meaning, because he thought that fighting and becoming famous to some point and conquering the world, at least as a man, was the reason to live. To some point he reminds us of Andrew Tate, but that's another story. So but overall, even if he's had some mistakes and has been misinterpreted and went mad at about 39 years old, I think, or 40 approximately, I can't recall exactly, he still can help you to overcome difficult situations. And he's very entertaining and unpredictable, and you can analyze some of his quotes and always come back to them and discover new meanings, and that's very fascinating to me. So Have a nice day, and I'll see you on the next one.